Why are you such an asshole?
Is it possible to love and hate at the same time? Is it possible to hate the restaurant but love the cook?
No. You sit down there and you finish your lunch. Come on.
Dislike the actor but love the movie?
My wife's name out your mouth. Wow.
Is it possible to love the music but hate the musician? That is the relationship many have with.
This is his album. It's called African Giant. Here with the song Anybody, Burna Boy.
Allegedly fights with Buffalo Soldier in South Africa.
Snatching another man's wife at a Lagos nightclub, he brought out his service pistol and shot it multiple times.
Posted a picture of himself holding a gun with the caption that said, "This is not a movie or music video."
The first Nigerian artist to play and sell out Madison Square Garden. Please welcome Burna Boy.
Was incarcerated for months in the UK for gang activities around 2010.
Threatens to kill bloggers who write about him.
He was recorded kicking a fan in the head.
What other trouble will he get into next?
I'm using this medium to advise one Damini Ogiolu, aka Burna Boy, to report himself at the nearest police station.
Performing his hit Last, once again, Burna Boy.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Well, from the start would be the Damini Ogulu story. It wouldn't be the Burna Boy story.
At 10 years old, many African parents would want their kids to say,
I'm a doctor.
a pilot,
Are you a real life pilot?
I sure am, little lady.
an engineer, and the many other white-collar jobs parents drum into the heads of their children. But this boy chose none of that. Instead, he said, I want to make music.
I know I can
Be what I wanna be.
what I wanna be.
I knew he wasn't going to be a great academic, but he was interested in music.
This boy was Damini Ogulu. You know him as. So, was 10-year-old Burna Boy a fortune teller? I doubt it. What made him predict his future accurately was his environment. As human beings, our environment contributes a great deal towards how we think, behave, and what we choose to do with our lives. Burna grew up in a home where the walls whispered reggae songs. His bed screamed dancehall and the furniture blew trumpets. His house was an ocean of music and he was just a fish in this ocean.
The records that were in my house then were Fela's records and jazz records. So he listened to what I had in the house.
Growing up to become one of the biggest African acts of his generation and winning some of the biggest awards of his craft.
When I say Burna, you say boy. Burna.
His brand is no longer only synonymous with music genius, but arrogance, aggression, and violence. So why is this music icon working so hard to tarnish the brand he and his team have labored for many years to establish? I think I may have the answer. But before we go into that, let's take a ride to Port Harcourt, Nigeria. The year was 1991, city Port Harcourt. Political climate, Niger Delta conflict and unrest. One could call Damini Ogulu a child of internal warfare even though he did not have to fight. He grew up in a climate where the soot invaded air smelled of bullets, and no matter how hard you covered both ears, you could hear suffering and pain. But young Damini was fortunate. Hearing and smelling war miles away from the comfort of his home was better than the battlefield. Instead of the sound of guns, Damini listened to foreign rappers like Busta Rhymes and DMX. By the age of 10, music was the very air of his breath. While many kids his age were busily playing video games, his video game was the musical software Fruity Loops, gifted to him by a friend and classmate. He spent countless hours on the software, experimenting with several beats. I guess we have that friend to thank for his part in the birth of Burna Boy. This experimentation did not dissipate over time. In fact, his willingness to experiment with different genres of music is what has made him unique. A uniqueness that birthed his afrofusion style.
So you call it afrofusion. What does that mean?
So it's like a pizza, right?
Okay.
So Afro Beat is the base.
Okay.
Right? And then now you can have any pizza you want, but you have the Afro Beat base. You know, so there's the hip hop, there's the dancehall, right. There's the, you know.
The world got its first taste of the pizza in 2012 with the release of the song Like to Party from his debut album entitled Leaving an Impact for Eternity. This style of music was quite different from the style of the other many talented Nigerian musicians. Burna's voice and rhythm and pace and lyrics slid through the streets of Nigeria, entering homes and parties and hearts and legs that could not help but dance to his Afrofusion rhythm. His hard work earned him a nomination for Best Album of the Year at the 2014 Nigerian Entertainment Awards. Even though Burna Boy did not win it, his nomination in 2014 activated a magnetic field around him and his music, and since then has gone on to win many music awards. He's won everything: the Mobo Awards, MTV Awards, BET Awards, and many more. Many awards, but one: the Grammy. In 2019, Burna released the album African Giant into the world. This album was by far his best work yet. It got him several nominations and won many awards. But the Burna Boy camp was knocking and waiting anxiously behind one huge door. They were sure this album would get them in. They did get an invitation, a nomination for the Grammy's 2020 Global Music Album.
Hold up. Because for those of you that don't know, Burna Boy just got nominated for a Grammy.
Burna Boy loses his first attempt at winning a Grammy Award.
Burna Boy loses Grammy Awards to Angelique Kidjo.
Angelique Kidjo beat Burna Boy to the award.
Burna Boy congratulates Angelique Kidjo.
The new generations of artists coming from Africa gonna take you by storm. And the time has come. This is for Burna Boy.
It wasn't to be in 2020, but losing to the music goddess Angelique Kidjo was not something to be ashamed of. This loss was a victory for a minority of people who judge Burna Boy by set standards he did not measure up to. After all, the guy who picks up fights in clubs and displays bad temperament does not deserve to be celebrated. But he is only human, flawed, just like the rest of us. They kicked him while he was down and rejoiced when he returned to Nigeria empty-handed. I guess Burna Boy was paying for the sins of being a flawed human being. So, as a human being, how did Burna Boy take the loss?
A million ways I swear I prove you wrong.
When some people are down, they stay down. They moan and cry and complain. They tell themselves they are the victims, that life is not fair. But not Burna Boy. He used the loss as motivation to fuel his next album. Instead of staying in bed, he slept in the studio. Instead of complaining, he wrote songs. He went into creation mode and a year later unleashed yet another album that roared through the globe like a lion. A roar that sounded like a long-awaited melody. A sweet melody that delighted hearts and made the most rugged of faces smile.
Oh, I'd have to be twice as tall at least to feel better than I do. Yes, I'd have to be twice as tall at least, I mean me multiplied by 2.
The album, Twice as Tall, was his response to the loss of the Grammys in 2020. But most importantly, Burna Boy proved to himself that he had what it took to overcome adversity. Greatness is not when you reach the top. Greatness is when you pick yourself up from the dust and rise again. When you choose to hold on to hope in spite of naysayers. It is when you keep walking in the darkness for as long as it takes until you find that door that leads to your light. Burna Boy found his door, and when it opened, he got nominated again for the Grammys in 2021. And this time...
And the Grammy goes to... Oh, come on, Twice as Tall, Burna Boy.
Burna Boy got his Grammy, but his objective was not only to win the Grammy, his mission is to leave an impact for eternity. He wants to achieve legendary status. In order to do that, he had to get his hands dirty, swim in a pool of crocodiles, and put his fame and money on the line. I call this the Fela Kuti effect. What is the Fela Kuti effect? The Fela Kuti effect is when an artist swallows the red pill and gains consciousness of the fact that there is more to art than money and fame, and that a successful artist is a committed artist, a torchbearer and mouthpiece, shining the light on and speaking against all that is wrong with society.
This is Nigeria. Look how I'm living now. Look how I'm living now. Everybody be criminal.
Burna Boy has played his part in addressing the problems in Nigeria through his music. When the issue of police brutality escalated in Nigeria in 2020, celebrities came out to condemn the actions of the police and the government. Everyone but Burna Boy.
Let's talk about Nigeria.
Stop killing our children.
We have been coming here every day to make sure this protest continues.
This is the first time I'm seeing Nigerian youth as a united entity. We do not want SARS anymore.
For weeks now, there have been demonstrations against police brutality across Africa's most populous country. Protesters accuse the now disbanded Special Anti-Robbery Squad, or SARS, of torture.
I would say Nigerian government, you guys are ashamed to the world.
Where was the artist who through his music had spoken against people in power and had urged the ordinary Nigerian not to give in to the oppressor? People quickly called him a fraud who only condemned authorities in his songs.
People were complaining because I didn't even know it was happening. I was busy with my mom having surgery. I had no idea what was going on, to be honest, until it was kind of deep.
Was Burna Boy going to lose the chance to put one foot through the door of immortality? No artist can claim to be Fela Kuti, but what he did in the past inspired an artist or two or three in Nigeria and the world to speak up against corruption and injustice. This is the Fela Kuti effect, the road to immortality.
We are the new generation, relentless and tireless. But this change must come. We must be ready not to lose focus and go the long haul. As Nigerians who have decided enough is enough to bad governance, police impunity, and general uselessness.
The African giant sure seems to be inching his way towards immortality, but carved into the minds of people is a Burna Boy who is toxic, violent, and abusive, a paradox they find hard to reconcile. Let me explain. You see, an artist is like a candle. It shines so bright and illuminates the path you point it at. In thick darkness, a single lit candle can bring life to the space. The same fire that brings life is also the source of many distractions. An artist is like fire. Their ability to create great music stems from who they are, both good and bad. You cannot take the good and leave out the bad. Which would you rather have? A mediocre musician who is nice and isn't always in trouble and behaves like you expect him to? One you would never get to know. Or you could take the Burna Boy we have right now, a musical genius who occasionally makes mistakes. Isn't that a major part of being human? Burna Boy is a work in progress, just like everyone else. I am not asking you to condone violence, neither would I. In a perfect world, we could have Burna Boy, the music maestro, who does no wrong, but the world isn't perfect, is it? That said,
we're going to tell you to your face. You know what I mean? We're not gonna sit by and see you doing something and just act like, oh no, we didn't see it. I've promised myself I'll never be the person who just sits by and gleefully says things about people that I care about and then also joins the group of mourners afterwards and acts like I wasn't part of it. Too many people like to mourn you when you're dead and they don't say anything to you when you're alive.
Too many people like to mourn you when you're dead and they don't say anything to you when you're alive. And they don't say anything to you when you're alive. And they don't say anything to you when you're alive.
Giants are not islands. They are elevated by people who support their upward ascent in many ways. If Burna Boy wants to truly be an African giant, he has to learn to tame the destructive forces working within him. No one is asking for perfection, but pride always comes before a downfall. What makes great art is the artist's freedom to be themselves. From a young age, Burna Boy knew who he was and what he wanted to be, and that certainty has developed in him a character so sure of himself that many would mistake for arrogance. Through hard work and dedication, he has carved out a space for himself in the musical history of Africa and the world at large. His unique brand of music has found its way into our homes and clubs and across the world, turning him into a global icon. He is an artist deeply rooted in the musical traditions of Africa, but open enough to find connection with other forms of music. The beauty of his music is complemented by its functionality in the consciousness to use art for change. That is what makes the African giant. He may burn, but he is a giant, if only for now.
I am an asshole because that is my true nature. The difference between you and me is that I have gained the freedom to express my true nature. And what could be more beautiful than truth and freedom?